Hi guys, so many friendly faces, so let's do this. I feels like we're in Burning Man and not in a very serious conference. So, okay, next slide, please. I will say this a lot. Next slide, please, so bear with me. So, the next slide.
Exactly. Slow on that one. Look at the outbounds.
What's up?
Converging.
Ah, it's here. Ah, okay, it's changing there. Got it. Thank you. So when we started LUKSO, our inspiration, our archetype of the creator was Virgil Abloh, because we saw this convergence happening in the new creative economies. Next slide. So basically, that's our ethos. So the contemporary creative economies are characterized by transgressions of traditional disciplines and reality dimensions. Next slide, please. So right now, this new creative economy that we know is built on the premise of NFT 1.0, which is an NFT standard that was born almost 6 years ago. And it was a very solid effort in order to bring kind of like blockchain into the creative industries and start creating assets for cultural goods. But those standards are unfortunately quite limited in what they can do. And we have all moved forward and start building an economy and a lot of businesses and selling a lot of NFTs with not a lot of tech foundation behind it. And this has been kind of like the mission that me and my co-founder Fabian took upon, that it was how can we improve the current ecosystem, and how can we really empower creators to issue really cool digital and phygital goods. Next slide. So, as we said, the current standards are coming towards the end of their life cycle. Thank you very much. You guys were amazing, but it's coming to an end. Next slide. And we need standards that actually the identity is at its core. And we believe the center of the creative economy is identities. Next slide. So there it is, identity. Next slide. I was not planning that I have to say next slide, so there's a lot of slides. So NFT 2.0. So this is what LUKSO is building. This is what we're proposing, and this is one of the biggest value propositions that we have. And I will say more about it in the next slide. So basically, we believe once NFTs are done properly, they will be able to have interactive memories with futuristic depth. Next slide. This will be so much smoother if I could click. So basically, we're introducing this concept of universal profiles. And universal profiles are an array of blockchain smart contract standards. They're working together in order to create these different type of identities. The core of the identity is the identity of the creator, the brand, the user. And from that identity, you have the ability to issue goods. Next slide. And of course, we use Platonic figures as our logo. So this is the current interface for the universal profiles. And the universal profiles is basically your own chain identity. The way it works right now is that we have keys that we manage, and we use those keys to kind of like manage the ownership. And the kind of like the solution towards having an identity is the ENS, kind of like having your unique name, but you can change the address behind the ENS, making all of the NFT before, once you change the address behind the ENS, kind of like having no provenance again. So this is the reason why having an identifiable profile that can manage several sub-accounts, super important. So this is what we're creating. We're creating an interface that is very friendly, that is talking to the smart contract standards, and those profiles are 100% in the control of the creator and the user. And from that standard, from that universal profile is the place you can start issuing goods, which is really exciting. Next slide. And then this is a couple of examples, like universal profiles is still on beta, but we already have a very vibrant community of people who are creating and issuing NFTs using the universal profile standards. Next slide. And then we have this really beautiful kind of like beta phase that we're going on right now. And we're utilizing the universal profiles in a venture that is building on LUKSO, which is called the Dematerialize, which I also helped co-found, which is a digital fashion marketplace. And in this place, we are utilizing all of these standards, all of these new type of NFTs in order to onboard new users, not crypto users. And the beautiful thing about the universal profile is that you manage that account as a regular account. It works kind of like your Web 2 profile with all of the advantages of the Web 3. Next slide, please. And that's the Dematerialize. So now I'm going to show you a couple of the examples of the things that we have created as digital goods on the Dematerialize. So next slide. So the first thing that we did in the Dematerialize is that we launched, one of the first things we did is last September, we launched a collection with Karl Lagerfeld, the brand, and we launched these amazing collectibles as digital NFTs of Karl Lagerfeld, and you could take pictures with Karl as an AR filter, and they were a lot of fun. They're really cool collectible. And the beautiful thing is those NFTs were issued by the CMO of Karl Lagerfeld herself. Without our help, she was able to issue the NFTs. Next slide, please. And then this is a more contemporary kind of like creative economy brand and use cases. This was a collaboration that we did together with Artifact Studios and The Fabricant, and we launched an array of like the really cool digital collectibles, of which some of them you could experience on video games, in Sansar specifically. Next slide. Again, we're very strongly supporting young talent, and this was Vogue Italy Talents creators and winners. Again, digital fashion designers were able to issue digital goods using LUKSO without our help. Next slide. And this is a collaboration that we did to go Soland, and this is a very beautiful use case because in this case, it was a phygital collection, so we have only digital goods, but this garment also exists in the real life, and they presented it during Copenhagen Fashion Week. And some of the buyers got the phygital collectible, which was really cool. So this is the point around the smart contract standards, is that you should have the ability, those assets should be tradable against each other. So a phygital good should be tradable against a digital good, which is pretty obvious, but just in case. So next slide. And this is again during New York Fashion Week. We did this beautiful collaboration with Rebecca Minkoff, and again, Rebecca and Uri Minkoff themselves were the ones issuing the NFTs for Minkoff. Very easy user journey. Next slide. And this is one of the recent ones. The founder actually just arrived to Miami. We did this beautiful shoe drop with shoes and Rico Nasty. And there were also a phygital collection using the universal profiles. Next slide. So until now, we have around 10,000 users who have created and issue and receive digital collectibles, NFTs, before we launch. So this is still in the beta phase. We have used it commercially, we have used it direct to consumer, and it's really, really working. And the beautiful thing is most of those 10,000 people, they are not crypto users. They are basically ordinary fashion users who are coming into the blockchain space, not because they're aficionados of the blockchain space, but because they love digital fashion and they want to enter the world of digital consumption. So this is our mission, this is our goal. It's not so much about converting the blockchain space into something new, the current crypto users, but it's really about bringing a new array of And in this example, basically, the Dematerialize put those NFTs on our marketplace, and they transact the dematerialized never has ownership of those NFTs. They never pass through the marketplace. The marketplace is just facilitating the transaction. And then users, when they transact in the dematerialized, they create an universal profile that works as the receiver for them to manage their account and receive the NFTs. So that's pretty much how the journey is working. I invite you guys all to start testing it. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this little introduction on LUKSO. Thank you.